for some reason or another, I became a hardcore Joe Rogan fan, and I was listening to him. I have never done psychedelics or weed or ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And way back in the day, he was more anti-God, like 10 years ago, right? He would say like that, he was basically saying there was no God. Well, he was at least agnostic, I guess you could say.
Okay. Yeah.
But then he would share his psychedelic experiences, and he would admit that there were entities that were trying to deal with him or trying to speak to him while he was on those psychedelic experiences.
Yeah.
And I always was concerned because I was like, oh, because I was a Joe Rogan fan, and I was like, ooh, that don't sound like it's the angel of the Lord. That sounds like there's some other stuff there, right? And the reason why I'm bothering you with that question is you are very unique.
Yeah.
Because you have had positive experiences with your grandmother, and then you also have had the Lord personally kind of deal with you like, hey, lay off this a little bit, like that's what I interpret,
Definitely. Yeah.
So, and you've written a paper on it, and you're a spiritual brother. Have you thought about when people go down that heavy psychedelic road, could that be a portal for something else that could possibly cause some demonic activity or anything of that nature?
Most definitely. I'm comfortable with this question. This is actually right on cue. So when I was living in LA at the time, I also experimented with mushrooms and things of that nature. And this is how redemptive God is, right? The holding company for what it is I do now, it's called Righteous High. And Righteous High originally was the name of my paper and was also the name of a cannabis-infused beverage company that I was going to roll out with my cousin in Los Angeles. And the whole time I was doing this, I wasn't focused on getting people high, right? Because within the cannabis market, let's say, at the time, let's say 2020, 2020, 2021, the majority of the highest selling beverages in the cannabis market were about 100 milligrams of THC per bottle, right? To me, that's way too much in a bottle. That's a lot of THC, right? Wow. For me, when I would take an edible, the edibles I would take were maybe 5 milligrams, maybe if that.
Right.
So in doing that, like I'd always dose. It would always be like this, okay, gradual. It's not I'm getting high to get high. It's this gradual dosing of, okay, I'm using this in order to heal my body, right? I think it's really important to have a level of self-awareness when you're doing things like that. And the issue with it, and this is why I'm so passionate about it, I think this is why the Lord has called me to do work in that space. There's no regulation for cannabis and psychedelics the same way you have for alcohol, right? So within alcohol, I like wine too. I have a glass of wine every now and again. 6 ounces of wine. 6 ounces of wine is equal to 2 ounces of a shot of vodka, is equal to 8 to 10 ounces of a beer. Like there's a picture that you can look up online that has all of these different things, right? So there's no measurement for cannabis. So I can put 3 joints that are all one milligram joints, right, on a table, and you can take 2 hits from each of those joints, and one you won't feel anything, another one you'll feel okay, and another one you'll be on the moon, like you'll be completely out of it, right? So there are ways to measure it. At the same time, it's so much gray area within the market that, like, there's a lot of fear. And to be honest with you, there's a difference between fear and wisdom, right? Wisdom, if the closest translation, and Myron has talked about this as well, the closest translation to wisdom from ancient Hebrew to modern language is not something that's in your mind, it's a skill. So wisdom, the closest word that translates to is skill in our modern day language. So being wise means being skillful and being able to administer judgment. So being wise and knowing that, like, okay, I'm grieving the loss of a loved one and I'm in a tough season, I probably shouldn't be experimenting with these substances in the same way I am right now, because at the end of the day, I'm probably not doing it out of a place of genuine curiosity to try to understand this plant. I'm trying to do it to low key numb myself because I don't want to feel the feelings that I'm feeling. Once I process these feelings, okay, and I'm doing it for the purpose of my graduate thesis, I'm doing it for the purpose of healing my body after a tough workout because I don't want to use painkillers. Like that's the right approach to take. It takes another level of self-awareness, and it also takes a level of maturity. And I think there's a reason why the word Israel, right? Israel means wrestles with God. So as the children of, the children of Israel, the descendants, spiritually, let's say, we have to wrestle with God in a sense of like, hey, like, this is uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I'm sure, man, I love the way you prefaced it. If this question makes you uncomfortable, we can edit it out. I think that's the beauty about these things, Tony, because there's a lot of stuff in life that makes me feel uncomfortable. I know running from it isn't going to solve the discomfort. It's actually going to heighten the discomfort because I'm eventually going to have to run into it again.